welcome everyone to another episode of KQL Cafe, November 2024. As always, your hosts are Johnny Castaldi and Alex Rabon. We both like KQL, so that's why we're hosting this session. And our agenda, as usual, first of all, a welcome, then a little change to our normal agenda. We'll do a little recap on our recently executed KustoCon. So for those who missed this, about 2 weeks ago, we had the KustoCon, the first conference about KQL that we streamed live. And we'll talk a little bit about that and the feedback and the next plans, etc. Then, as usual, what's new updates around KQL. And then we are happy to welcome back Mehmet as our guest today. And last but not least, what did you do with KQL this month? And for all of you, stay tuned because we will have some more updates related to KustoCon. So let's get this started. Johnny, floor is yours.
Yes. So 8th of November was KustoCon Day, and we had a lot of fun. We started around the end of the first session. We had about 350 guests, a lot of questions, a lot of activity, which is really good. And after that, after the 6 sessions, we still had about 275 guests. So that's we were really pleased, and based on the feedback we got from the attendees, it was also really well received. So I guess we had a lot of fun. Just let me take the slides for a second. So, oh yeah, cool. I was moving to that part. Thank you, Alex. So we had fun as speakers. We had Olaf Hartong, we had Bert-Jan Paas, Fabian Bader, Alex and me, of course, and then we had Henning Rauch and Matthias Borg. So we had we have a lot of expertise over there. We had I think in total 30 plus years of KQL experience in there.
So that's, and let me add, so although this was an online event, we, as the organizers of this event and the speakers, we felt like, to give this, a little bit a good vibe, we've all been together in the same location, considering that maybe one day we do this hybrid. But also we had a great day, talking to each other, geeking out on KQL in between and after the sessions. And as you see, we try to make it as professional as possible, including banners and the whole equipment. So also a big shout out, for those of you, this was not just a Teams meeting running for 8 hours. We had to, we were very grateful to have Frans Augendorp with us, who you might know from other conferences and his podcast. And Frans, who is very professional in, making those conferences also accessible through streaming and that sort of things. So as you can see here, we had quite some gear, prepared to make this a good experience for our attendees.
Yeah. So we had a small form prepared for after the sessions. We had some questions on what did you love, how would we do in the future, what sessions did you like most, what kind of things would you like in next sessions, would you like some other things. So basically, some of the questions were about the knowledge. And the thing is, we wanted to know, was it good? How did you experience it? And a lot of comments were that it really helps in building knowledge, building example functions. We had a lot of good examples by basically everyone. And it's also because we are all in the field, we had some real good real life examples Olaf had a lot of good things in his detection engineering bits. Bert-Jan had, need I say more? So we had some good knowledge. And then for the next slides, we had the speakers. So we asked, hey, which speakers did you like? And basically, Olaf, Bert-Jan, Henning got the most praises. They did really well. The others also, Matthias, Fabian. I think we had a well-rounded day of KQL. And it's also good experience for the guests. They had a lot of community chat with each other. We had the Q&A sessions, which people started replying on. So it was a good technical day, and I think everyone enjoyed themselves on that day.
Yeah, and let me add here. I mean, if anyone feels like my question wasn't answered, we have a couple of channels available, so you can go to X and try to contact the people directly. KQLCafe is on X. We're also on Blue Sky now, and we have a LinkedIn group. So if you have any questions or you want to follow up with someone, on a community level, reach out to those people directly or post your question in those forums. Yeah.
Yes. And then on the next slide about the valuable insights, we had a lot of feedback because the more complex operators, the scan operators, the graph operators, the regex bits really helped people to improve their knowledge further. So that was good. And also basically the whole thing, again, graph queries, lateral movement, historical use of KQL. It's really what people took out of it. So it's nice that today we have Mehmet, who will be talking about time traveling within Kusto. So I think it's one of the, not to say easy bits, but it's good to work in time, that you know that you can move around, and also if you work with detections that you can play around with time so that you can see what your detection would do into time. So that's basically for the valuable insights. I think we have one more slides about the recap. And that's basically, we did a lot of things, we managed a lot of things, but we also had some sponsors to help arrange things, to make sure that everything was good arranged, location, speakers, equipment, making sure that everything was live kicking. So thanks again for the sponsors. They really helped us out.
Yeah, definitely. Good. So that's it for now. As mentioned, stay tuned for the remaining part of today's episodes. We have some more surprises related to KustoCon. But now let's move on to some of the news. So first of all, one item that catch my eye, actually quite cool, a submission from Sergio. And that is actually how to include, visual icons in your queries. Honestly, I wasn't aware of this, but I guess if you're doing reports or just some queries and you want to, pay more attention and just, good, bad, or high, medium, here's a good example of how you can visualize your results. And below you see a link to his article. So this, for me, I found this quite a nice one. Then for those people collecting logs, cost and amount of storage is always a topic. So here I would like to refer to a blog post that was recently shared by a number of people from Microsoft. And they really go through, how to analyze your current logs, assess the log size on table level, but even on row level. So, you might want to make use of transformation rules and throw out some records that you might not need, or consider, throwing out some columns that you might not need, as we heard in KustoCon, for everybody who's collecting Entra ID logs, maybe think of, do I really need those 25 encapsulated conditional access attributes in every lock. How much value is that giving me? On a side note, we have seen that in some customer environments, depending on the amount of conditional access policies they had, they could massively reduce their lock size there.
And this is also a bit in line with the session we had with Nicolas Suter about conditional access and the DCRs, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that Fabian mentioned it once. Yeah. Meanwhile, for some it has become common knowledge, but I can't stop repeating this. Yeah. So in a nutshell, if you are looking at optimizing your lock storage, definitely give this blog post a few minutes to digest. Then a new function has arrived. Although the documentation says it should work in log analytics, I wasn't able to do so. But we have a new function called current principal details. So basically what it does is, it shows the current principal details of the user that is currently logged on. And the use case they show, although if I may be very open, we have a couple of things like, maybe my location or my domain name, and the use case that I show is that you could create basically, a function / parser on this so that you would only see records, that match some of the attributes that you have in your current principal details. As you can see from this screenshot, this is Azure Data Explorer. I was able, but it did not give my principal details back, but the one of the log analytics workspace or an app registration while I was testing it there. But yeah, maybe stay tuned. I'm not even sure if it's already in public or GA. So it is available for everyone, but not GA. So maybe you're still tuning some things there. There's also another related function, also called current principal, that provides some data. Then the ARC operator, we spoke about this earlier in our KQLCafe session. With the ARC operator that was initially available in log analytics, we were basically able, to also query Azure resources. So think of, your Azure VMs or any settings that you have in Azure. So even, Sentinel configuration settings and whatsoever. Now these settings can also be queried directly from the advanced hunting pane in Defender XDR. I was personally hoping, but this is still not working, that you can also include those queries into your analytic rules, but that doesn't seem to be the case. To some extent for logical reasons, because it uses the permissions that I have within the portal. So I guess, in order to run this in Azure, in Microsoft Log Analytics analytic rules, it should, of course, also have the permissions in the context that Microsoft Sentinel executes those rules. So not sure where we are with support for that. I'm going to do my best and try to find out. But at least for those that are usually doing hunting in Defender XDR, now you can also use the ARC operator in there. As you can see here, a very simple query showing all my VMs that I have in my Azure subscription. Then another new column that arrived in Defender XDR, CloudProcessEvents. And this basically shows information about resources in so-called multi-cloud hosted environments. So if you happen to have Azure Kubernetes or in Amazon or in Google Kubernetes, and you have the Defender for Cloud connector enabled, you should now see also information coming from there. Unfortunately, I don't have any Azure Kubernetes running, so I can't show you this. But Johnny told me that there is information about this in the Log Analytics demo tenant, I think you mentioned.
Yes, well, so what it is, they do have some AKS data in there, but not the Defender data.
Okay.
So I think for the next session, I'll make an export and then we can do a live demo on it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, anyway, now if you happen to walk over these cloud process events and you see it in your advanced hunting, now at least you know, even if it's empty like it was in mine, you know what the purpose is of this. Yeah. Great, good. Then let's move on. And that was basically it for the news from this month. And with that, I would like to give a warm welcome to Mehmet. And yeah, sorry for that, but when I asked Johnny, you know, what is Mehmet going to talk about? And he said time traveling. The first thing that came to my mind, of course, is the Back to the Future car. So I I added this picture.
That's a good
to
reference, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and with that, I would say feel free to take over the screen, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks. Let me see a quick introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Mehmet Ergene. I'm the founder of Bluraven. I have an academy where I teach KQL, basically, for threat hunting, incident response, DFIR, etc. And you can find me on social media with the Cybermonk handle. I'm on both Blue Sky, Twitter, or X, whatever you call it. But seems like the new platform looks better, Blue Sky. So you can follow me there better. That's basically it. Let me share my other screen quickly. I hope this is the correct one. Yes, can you see it?
Yes.
Is it readable or should I zoom in?
Roger, please.
Say again?
Can make it a bit bigger.
Okay. How is it now?
One more, please. Thank you.
Okay, good. So a quick question. Does anyone know these comments? You can raise your hand so that we can see.
I would say I didn't until I took your training.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because today I checked on the internet to see if there's a detailed documentation about the comments that are starting with set. And I checked only one to see if I can find more information. But unfortunately, this stuff is not documented anywhere in the Microsoft portal, which is interesting. Anyway, so let's start with the first one. We have 4 commands that we can set, or parameters that we can set in Log Analytics Workspace, in Defender for Endpoint Advanced Hunting Portal, and also Azure Data Explorer. So normally, when you are using Microsoft Sentinel, the logs blade, when you query some data, let's say last 30 days of data, then you see that the time range here says set in the query, because you set here the time range or the time generated. You are basically saying that this is my time range, and then based on that, your query gets executed, and then you get the results. So now we are seeing the events from last month and up to now. So what happens here is that Microsoft Sentinel itself knows that there's a column, which is the time generated, which holds the date time information. And based on that information, it executes the queries that you set that you write in the editor. And apart from that, let's say we didn't put anything here. So then you see the time range is last 24 hours. Or you can choose a time range here from, let's say here to now. So now it's custom. Now I get the results based on this time range. What happens here is that when you manually set a time range here, it gets the time generated column that it knows, and then sets the this parameter query date time scope column from, and then query date time scope to. So basically it is setting the range for the data that it needs to scan, but you don't see what's happening behind. So these are the kind of internals of the Kusto database. And based on that, it runs the query and it gives you the results. And there is something else that we can use as query now. So I will come to this one later. Now, basically, we can set these time ranges here, but apart from that, we can also set on the command line. And to do that, especially on Sentinel, when you set the time range in this way, there are some tricks. So if you want to use these parameters, or if you want to use these parameters in the editor itself, your query should have a time generated filter. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So here you see I'm querying, or based on this configuration, it should start from the 1st of September until the 14th of September. And let's see, I didn't specify anything here, as you see. Now what's gonna happen? So we don't have any logs because it didn't run the query from that part. Incorrect. See. Yep. Now, in order to set these parameters correctly and use it in the editor itself, I first need to use the query now, which is the same date here, the datetime scope 2 and query now. So basically, I'm both setting the time range, and also I'm telling Sentinel that the current timestamp is not the timestamp that we are in at the moment. I'm basically saying that, okay, go back in time. So this is where the time travel comes in. So go back in time and set the now, which is the current timestamp, to the date time that I specify here. Now, when I do that, it starts using these parameters. And since I set the dates or date range from 1 to 14th, then I can see, or I can verify that it is querying the data based on what I tell to Sentinel. It is the same. Let me see. I have too many queries here.
You zoom this one also in a bit, please, Mehmet?
Yep.
Thank you.
So the same happens here as well. This both works both on Defender and Sentinel that we can use. Did I set it correctly? No. So right now I have the unified portal here, and because of that, I'm using here the time generated field, but I set the column to timestamp. Again, it didn't work. So you see the 28th of August. So you need to be careful when setting these fields based on which column that you want to use. Now it works. So it works in Defender Advanced Hunting as well. And you might be wondering why I'm explaining this, or what use cases we can have based on these parameters. So one nice thing about this is that, let's say I'm here, I should have a query. So this is Matthew's query, Matt Zori. I copied from his repository. So this query basically checks, it doesn't matter what it is looking. It basically checks the anomalies based on comparing the last day of data with the previous, let me see, 20 days of data. So it compares and then it tries to find some sort of anomalies. Normally, if you are a detection engineer or if you are writing a query to detect something, you write your query, you check the results, and then you need to monitor it for a while. And so you enable your query, left it open, leave it open, enabled, but do not create any instance or set the severity to low so that it doesn't end up in the SOC analyst's queue. And so this way you kind of have to wait for a week or for 2 weeks or maybe a month. It depends on how much time you need to wait to see that this query works as you expect and it doesn't create any false positives, right? Now, instead of waiting for a week or for 2 weeks or for a month, you can basically, since you are setting everything here, and you can run this query by changing the date time or dates to the past. So right now, this query, since it uses the ago function here or between function. Now, if you want to check this query historically, you have to manually adjust the dates, right? Everywhere. And if you have a long query and if you use lots of time-generated filters, then you have to set all of them one by one, which is not convenient. But just by using these parameters here, this is not gonna show any results, but just to demonstrate. So I have 4 parameters. Now, instead of changing everything here manually, what I can do, I can specify the column again, and then first change the date time scope to a date that is quite early, let's say July. And then the query date time scope 2 and query now parameters should be the same. So let's say today is 26th. Now, when I change this, I'm basically telling Sentinel that set the current timestamp to this timestamp, which is now, almost. And then also set the date time scope 2 parameter, which is the end range of the time range, so that the query scans the data until that time. And then when I run this, then I can get the result. And if I want to, instead of monitoring, what I need to do is, without changing this part, because it's already quite early, I can just change this parameter to 25 and 25. Now, when I run this, it works and it queries the data based on as if the now is yesterday. So just by changing 2 parameters here, I can easily test my query instead of waiting for a week or for a month or whatever you want. So this is the one of the best use cases for this parameter. And of course, doing it manually might be a bit cumbersome, but you can also script this. For example, you can just take the query and then write a small Python script that uses API. And then basically you can set these parameters inside the script and loop through every day or every hour, depending on how you design the query and the logic. Then you can immediately get the feedback for your query, which is, I think, quite cool.
So maybe to put this in other words, no, you are developing a new detection. You want to first verify, did I have that detection somewhere in the past in my logs? And if yes, and if now you want to bring this further, so you want to create an analytics rule, and maybe if we're now speaking Sentinel, you have attached, maybe a logic app that does something like incident enrichment, etc., etc. Basically, instead of just hard coding in your whole log to produce that incident, once you have that incident, you can basically add your magic lines to it and basically simulate the creation of an incident and then the subsequent automation actions that you would follow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think a fun fact also about this, because if you create a detection in Sentinel, you can do the test button, and then it will show you in time, and that basically uses the same logic as you're showing now.
I actually don't know what it uses, because I know that it checks something historically, but I'm not sure if it checks or if it sets the date time scope from and to fields or values based on the query logic here. For example, let's say, where was that here? So I have a time frame here and then end date here. So I'm not sure if it uses this part or if it just sets on a daily basis.
It looks at the frequency for your detection, because you said hey, I want to trigger it every hour or every day. And then it will loop back 50 times. If you set it to an hour, 50 hours. If you set it to a day, 50 days.
Okay. Yeah, good.
Yeah. And I hope I'm not getting ahead of your presentation, but this is also a super cool trick if you have to do proactive hunting, right? And you want to...
I'm coming to that part.
Okay, good. Then I stay quiet.
So now this is the detection engineering use case part. One thing that is important when you are using these parameters is that, so if you don't set these parameters, both the datetime scope 2 and query now parameters, to the exact same date, then what happens is that here I changed the datetime scope 2 parameter to 24th of September, but this is still 14th of September. Now, I didn't run the query yet, so you see the minimum time generated is the 1st of September and the maximum time generated is 14th. Now, when I run this query, even though I set the query now parameter to 14th, it still works. Sentinel and Defender is a bit different in this behavior. So when you do something, yes. So query now is 14th. So what you would expect is that you would get the 14th of September as the max time generated. But it's not the case, because here on the filter, you are basically saying that time generated is greater than ago 30 days. And since your time range ends here, so the query still checks the logs or scan the logs that are ahead of the query now. So that's why you need to when switching the days when testing or doing proactive hunting. So you need to change, or you need to use both these parameters and make them exactly the same, unless you have a certain use case. So this is the detection engineering use case part. Let's say you are doing some sort of hunting or investigating an incident or doing some sort of DFIR. And you might have, you may found something suspicious, but it happens in the past, not right now or not in the last hour. So when you want to check something, let's say the incident or the suspicious activity you found is 5 days ago, and based on 5 days ago, you want to check or you want to compare something the previous 10 days or previous 20 days. But in order to do that, you still have to change these parameters manually, which is not, again, convenient because you have to change everything manually, you have to calculate everything manually, etc., etc. And in that case, you can still use these parameters. And if you already have certain queries that you developed and store it in a repository, then you can just basically put these parameters at the beginning, and then you find the suspicious activity and you know the timestamp of that activity, and you want to check something based on that. Then you can see, you can use these parameters, again, check if there's any anomaly or if there's something different than usual. And also, since we are querying the data historically, which is in the past, you can also look forward from that point on. So you can also say, for example, okay, this activity happened 5 days ago, but did something happen after that? So you can also compare the whole stuff instead of just by looking at the last hours, etc., which makes it quite convenient, especially there are too many queries on GitHub repositories nowadays. So you can kind of create some small repository that you can check or that you can use for DFIR purposes, not for detection engineering, because you know that it would create false positives. But since you are doing some sort of investigation, then you just want to know what happened. So the query that you run is not gonna trigger an alert. And when you have that kind of repository, and you can use these parameters so that you can check things historically as of another date, not now. You can script this stuff, and then you can use it like Sigma, for example. If you use like tools like Hayabusa or Chainsaw, etc., what they do is they get all the event logs from the Windows endpoints, and then they collect all the Sigma rules, and then they run all the Sigma rules on the event logs. But what they do is they only label the data, so they don't check like historically. Now, with this method, you can also do the same in cloud for your EDR data or Microsoft 365 data or unified audit log, things like that. And you can develop your certain anomaly queries and then run it, all of them, in a single one by scripting, and then get the results based on the stuff that you are looking for. So this is basically what these 4 parameters enables. So I find it quite useful, to be honest. That's basically, yeah, what I can say. If there are any questions, I can answer.
There's a small question from Thomas in the chat.
Yep.
He asked, do you know if leveraging a set is more efficient? Does it improve speed or resource usage of the query?
No, it doesn't impact anything unless, like, for example, if you are using Sentinel, of course, only 14 days of data is in the hot bucket, and then the rest is in the warm bucket. So if you query data that is longer than 14 days, then yeah, you will get a small performance hit, but not because of the set. It's because of the log analytics workspace itself. So it doesn't have any impact on that. And I also received a question in the past regarding this. So basically, what you do here works in the context of this query execution. So when you say when you set the query now to this value parameter, this value, the date time, then it doesn't mean that you are changing the timestamp or the time of the cluster that is running the query. So it just basically a kind of abstraction. So inside this query, you are setting some parameters, and then the engine scans or queries data based on that. So it doesn't have any impact on the cluster itself as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other question?
If there's no questions about time traveling, I would have some question, Mehmet, if you're happy to speak about. Yeah, I'm subscribed to your Bluraven Academy. I recently got some updates that you have been doing some hard work in the background. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Can I show it here? Let me see.
So just for everybody who lives under a stone, Mehmet is hosting the Bluraven Academy. Yet another great platform to learn about and elevate your KQL skills.
I have right now Black Friday campaign, so if you want to join. Sure if I'm gonna able to do that from here. Let's see.
Password 01.
No password, anonymous.
Oh, that's the Black Friday. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, one nice thing is in the previous platform. Let me see. Yeah, here. In the previous platform, you were not able to use your Google account or Facebook account, etc. So you can use this stuff. Courses. Now on the courses, if I continue here, some of the nice things is that you can basically, is it still okay?
Yeah.
So you can highlight or take your own notes. It stays here, which is cool. It doesn't have search functionality yet. I'm gonna ask the providers about that. Yeah, the new types of exercises are kind of cool because in the past the questions were like only multiple choice that you have to choose, but now it's more like a CTF style. So instead of providing you options to select, which you can try and find, now I'm able to use this type of questions so that you have to do something and then type the result.
Okay, so almost like the Azure Detective Agency.
Sort of, yeah.
Nice.
It has more features than the platform itself. I'm not sure. I'm thinking about developing a certification, but let's see, because I still don't know how to create an exam that covers data analysis. So, which is kind of difficult because you can answer the questions just by trying or brute forcing, I think.
Yeah.
That's why that makes me concerned.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is basically the new platform. Most of the I have. Let's see. Yes. Normally, there's a community which is not enabled yet. I'm thinking about enabling it, but nowadays everywhere is a kind of community, so I'm not sure if it's gonna work out or not. If there's a demand, then I will definitely consider. Yeah, that's basically the platform, the new platform itself. It looks more sleek and better.
Yeah. So right now, what are your training offerings that you currently have available?
I have two trainings. I split them into. Yeah, I made some changes in the courses, both for analysts and threat hunters or detection engineers. So for now, there is one focuses on investigation workflow for security for SOC analysts, because now when your main responsibility is triaging incidents, investigating incidents and alerts, etc., then you don't need the graph operators or scan operator or anything else. So you need to find the answers as quickly as possible. So this course focuses on especially on that part, and these both courses have the same foundations or fundamentals, I would say. So, for example, I think I put a small comparison chart here. So you get the fundamentals in these two, and the time series basics, and then the rest. So for this one, you can use visualization. For example, you can investigate stuff by visually looking at the graphs, charts, etc., which is not useful for a detection engineer, or you cannot create a detection based on a chart. And there's a certain specific section, rapid triage and investigation, where I explain easy ways of getting answers for your questions. So instead of, for example, I sometimes see people try to find information on the portal by going to another portal or enter ID, etc. And instead of doing that, you can ask investigative questions. Like instead of just directly going to the live response, you can say, okay, if this is an true positive, then there must be something else on the device as well. So I explain how you can write such queries, especially for accounts, processes, etc., so that you see what happens during that time period or during that alert. And the other one is it has the same fundamentals as I said, and then I explained from scratch anomaly detection, what is anomaly detection, the types of anomaly detection, what you can do. There's time series analysis in it, especially the time series analysis or time series anomaly detection is quite interesting and also quite tricky in our domain, I would say, because most of the time the time series anomaly detection or time series itself requires properly generated data. So if you have, for example, a sensor that is measuring the temperature, then you can easily perform time series analysis on that to find anomalies and seasonality, things like that. But if you analyze user activity or the endpoint device activity in detail, you will see that it's not the case. And there is no proper baseline most of the time. And when you use the default functions, then they do not work all the time. They work sometimes, but if you use it in a real environment, then there's a high chance that you can miss some true positive alerts. So you need to be kind of careful. That's what I explain. I think I have 3 sections related to that.
Okay.
And I think I will add one more. And process mining that I explained. I think process mining, I talked about it in another podcast 2 years ago, last year. So people do not talk about it, but in my opinion, it's an amazing feature of KQL that you can detect stuff, especially based on emerging threats or the threat intelligence information that you have.
Although I'm a little bit biased because I took one of the trainings, but what I like about this platform is, at least that's my experience sometimes, and we discussed it also at the KustoCon. Sometimes when you look at those functions and you go to your original documentation, it's kind of difficult to relate, because the examples are sometimes very abstract. And for all those that don't know this platform, Mehmet is basically feeding the backend with realistic data that, at least if you work with the likes of Defender and Sentinel, you can somehow relate to, right? And I guess that's a big benefit because you are basically running like a continuous lab environment that produces real world type of data, correct?
The data is static, but I'm still running the environment to generate, to create new trainings, hopefully.
Okay.
But what I can say about is that, so here is the data set that you have. And this is exactly the data that you see in Advanced Hunting Portal or in Sentinel. So there is no difference between them. I used exactly the same data schema, and the logs are not synthetically generated. They are a result of agent simulation, the NPCs, non-playable character. So these are basically actual activities that you see. So what I usually see is that there are platforms which are really good, but when I check the data, I don't see any user activity in it. So there is only the idle activity and either the attack activity. And when you analyze such data, then you easily find what happened. And it doesn't make it kind of realistic, I would say. So that was one of the focus when I create the training. And I think, it's also available here. Let me see. Operator. I usually explain the courses are text-based, but they contain quite a lot of screenshots. What I personally don't like is when I watch a video about programming, coding, or anything related to coding, I usually have to stop or pause the video to see what is being typed and what the instructor is saying, and then replicate or type the same thing in my console.
I know that's the same when our guests do not submit me their snippets, and then I'm actually going through that and try to write off the screen during the KQL recording what people showed.
So I find it difficult to follow when I try to learn something. And also, if it's only text-based, then you have to make a picture in your mind about what is happening. And instead, what I did is both gave the query, write what it means, and also show what that query does or what that function does with the screenshot. So you can follow at your own pace by reading and by seeing together.
No,
so this is one of the example. For example, I say here, when you run this query, you will see this, and this is the null value here that you would see. But if I don't put this picture and just say you will get a null value, then you would probably not know, okay, where the null values happens.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, that makes it clear and easy to understand. And that's also what I get as feedback.
Yeah, no, I mean, that to me is definitely, I mean, let's be honest and be inclusive for everyone. You can learn KQL in several ways, but yeah, I would say if you want a shortcut or do it with some good examples, this is a great option as well. Yeah.
I personally struggled a lot when I first started learning KQL, for example.
Yeah.
Because I had to reverse engineer queries or see what's happening when you run certain function, etc.
Yeah. Oh, that's much appreciated. Good.
Thank
Any
you.
more questions from the audience for Mehmet? Let me see in the chat. Okay, good. None. So then, thank you very much, Mehmet, for first of all
for having me.
doing some
it was great.
time
It was
traveling with us.
Yeah, we traveled a lot.
Yeah, and hope to see you back. You were here. I was just looking up. You were here. For those interested, you can go to KQLCafe.com. And if you look at the history, we had Mehmet back in May 2022. So hopefully we don't have to wait another 2 years for you to be back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Good. Thank you. Okay, then we'll continue with stuff we have done. This month, I have a nice one, I believe. So if you want to monitor your Azure DevOps environment, although in Microsoft Sentinel, there's already a solution. So if you go to the Content Hub, you will see that there's also already a solution, including analytic rules and threat hunting rules to go over your audit logs when you have Azure DevOps set up, meaning that you have set up an organization and a project. But I wanted to take it a step further, or let's say close the gap. And I focused on some of the organizational settings that you can configure through a so-called Azure DevOps organizational policy. The important settings you see here on the right. So if you, first of all, of course, you want to enable logging of your Azure DevOps environment. So you want to make sure nobody's turning that off. You most likely want to not allow your Azure DevOps projects to be seen publicly unless you host something for the community. It's up to you to decide whether you want to allow SSH authentication, whether you want to allow external guest users. So once you have made up your mind about the settings you want to enable or disable, and stay in control and be alerted when those are being modified, I've prepared here a bunch of KQL queries that you can incorporate into your Sentinel analytic rules and your threat hunting rules. So that's it from me for this month. And then I hand it back over to Johnny.
Thank you, Alex. So, like I said, we had from the KustoCon, we had a small form for people to enter so that we could understand a bit how they experienced it. And I started playing with some KQL to make some data visible. So let's start at the beginning. So we had this form, and in the form we had a lot of fields. And what I did in the end is I imported this as CSV, and then all of the columns are available. So basically here we have a column, how many sessions did you watch? We had 6. So we had a lot of people who watched 6, some 5, some 1. And the rating, I set a rating from 0 to 5. The topics, how satisfied were you? So these are all just a bit of small metrics for us. And we had some reviews. What did you enjoy most? Oh, okay. So good feedback. What could be improved? We had a small microphone issue, but in the end it was all good. A lot of question about recorded talks, which we discuss later in a bit. So this was all some good information. So what I wanted to do first, I wanted to share with the team, hey, how did we do? So basically, like I said, we had 0 to 6 sessions, 0 to 5 ratings. So basically, we had in total 49 people filled in the form. Average from the 49 is 5 sessions. So a lot of people saw a lot of the sessions. The rating, so basically a 4.6 out of 5, which is really good for the quality of the sessions. How relevant was it? 4.7, also good. You can round it all up until 5, but let's use it like this. And how satisfied were you with the speaker's expertise, which is almost a 5. So we need to talk with the people who didn't fill in the 5 over there, but for now, we're all good. So next, we had a question. Where would you prefer the event to be held? So this is also a nice one. I used the summarize basically to count, and I aggregated by where do you want it to be held, and then we used a pie chart to make it visible. So a lot of people, well, more than half think we should have the next KustoCon as a hybrid, other part online, and a small part out of 49, 2%, one person or maybe 2 thought it would be nice to have an in-person only. So I guess based on this, we know that the people were happy and will need to do a hybrid or online event basically to please everyone. So I think we should do that, right, Alex?
Yeah, that's the plan.
So then the next bits would be, we had a part of the presentation style. Now let me show that at first. So basically in the column presentation style, over here at the end, we have basically which style would you prefer? So basically people could select what they wanted. If they want a workshop-based, hands-on lab, formal sessions, all the things. So next what we'll do is we'll use parse JSON to split that up a bit. So basically with the parse JSON, we can see that instead of a large string, we put it into separate values. So over here you have all semicolon separated values. So basically what I wanted to do next is I wanted to use the split operator to make sure that they're just separate entities. So now in the presentation style, we have multiple values. If we fold one open, we can see over here, presentation style. So over here, we can see now we have a value with multiple entries. So the next step would be to use MV expand, because with MV expand, if you have a dynamic array and you want to split them up, you can use MV expand to get everything out. So let me just go back for a second. So we had 49 entries, and if we split it then up, we had 160. So what it is, if you look at this session, we can see a lot of empty values where this is related to maybe a spacing in there or something, because every entry had 1 plus the normal answers. So what we want to do first is we want to filter out with the is not empty operator to see all the filled in values. So now we have 111 records of just basically all answers. But this is a long list, so just let's do a count on it. So basically, almost everyone would love to see hands-on labs and workshop-based things. So for the next session or the next KustoCon, we need to figure out a way for us to make sure that we have some hands-on labs so that people can play a bit more with the data, because at first you see the numbers were really good, people like the content, but now people also want to play, just like Alex and myself. So make it a bit more visible. We use the bar chart. So the render operator is an operator where you can select a lot of visuals. Basically, let's just do it. Over here you can see this is in ADX, by the way, so we have a bit more options. You can even use Plotly to make all kinds of fun heat maps and stuff like that. But for now, I just chose a bar chart to make it a bit visible. So this way we can see, hey, this is what we like. Some people like panel discussion, so maybe it's also fun to maybe make a session about that. Then the formal presentations, almost half of the people think that that's a good way. So that's nice. To do some more crunching. So in the data, if we just snip it around a bit, project, let's do country L. So basically we had all these answers of people stating where did they watch it from. The small problem is I can't map this directly to a graph, and I also there is some small changes in formatting. For instance, in the Netherlands we say Nederland or Nederland in Dutch. We have Netherlands and we have the Netherlands. So I had to fuzz around a bit with the formatting. So what I did was basically assigned the geographical coordinates to every country. So now we have a list of all countries which are in the forms, and we can join that later. So basically, I also had to, if we look at this, and the country L, we do distinct country L. We see that we have about 20 countries, but there are some duplicates in here. So what happens is you have in the front and in the back, we had some spaces. So what I did is I trimmed the countries. And if we now do a distinct country, of course, we can see that there were 15 unique countries. So basically all the visitors viewed from these countries. But yeah, this is a list and it's okay, but let's make it into something nice. So we first join it to the list I created. We say, hey, we want to join what we have now in the query. You join it to locations, and on the left side we have country L because I made the country lowercase, and on the right side we have the country because the column here is called country. So if we now append this, and we have a nice list of all the locations, and it's not the exact locations of where people are, but it's a good way to view where people are coming from. So if we then want to use it, we need to change it because the operator we want to use needs reals instead of the string values from the list. So we do that, and then we also add the location. So here we do the join, and then we have the locations on the country. And then what I did here is I did a join, and then I excluded Nederland, and I exclude Netherland. So this way, in the join, there's only one value for the Netherlands. So if I now do this, then we have a nice column here where all the items from the Netherlands have country 1 is Netherlands. So we know that it's all the same value. And next is what we'll do is we have this operator geo point to S2 cell. It's a bit of complex operator, but what we do is basically all S2s, there is a mapping table for all S2 cells around the world. And each S2 cell has its own value or hash, so to say. So basically now we have all these hashes and we can map
cool
them.
one. Tell me a little bit more about this S2 cell.
You have the S2 cells and the S3 cells. That's a mapping system for geolocation. So they have, I think we also had it in the Custo Detective.
Ah, you're right. Yeah.
And then you have
it's like a circle, right? Like
yeah.
Okay.
Let me just show it. S2 cell Custo. So basically, just pointing back at the kind of graph. So all GPS locations, longitude, latitude locations, they have a size level. So basically, you can make cells from the biggest item is like almost 8,000 kilometers. And the smallest one is 6 millimeters. And what it is that if you use this, you can make a bit of a mapping. Geospatial clustering, exact, Henning. So the fun fact is Henning Rauch from the Custo team, he's also here. And he wrote a blog back in 2019 about this, which I was referring to when I wrote about this today. So when we use that, we can say we project it's the hashes. So basically now we have a coordinate over here, which corresponds with the countries, but still we can't do this. So a fun way to make sure that we have it is if we render a pie chart, but then here we say map. I still think we should have a sort of mapping render, but for now this works. And when we run it, we have a nice global map, and then we can see where people came from. So we had a lot of attendees from the United States, from Canada, some from Mexico. And if we zoom in, we can here see, so we still have the 3 Netherlands. So let me just...
I guess next time we have to make a form in such a way so you don't have to do all this fiddling and cosmetic adjustments, and then this will be super cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
So basically, we now have a good idea. Our friend Edmund from Egypt was there. And a viewer from India, I'm not sure I know who that was by top of mind, but I think it's all. Thanks everyone for watching to that.
Okay, did we have anyone from Australia?
Not according to the form. So maybe they did watch, but they didn't fill in the form.
Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely helpful to understand your audience. So I would say to wrap it up, what did Johnny do this day? Well, he transformed a Microsoft Forms results into some KQL magic to help us better understand our audience.
Exactly. And then more importantly, because, we have a question from Thomas. Says, what would this be a good use case of case, where country, Netherlands, and so on?
Yes, I would say yes. Yeah.
You could use case, you could use if, you could use the lookup operator. That's there's always multiple ways.
Not sure if they're, just going back to memory lane, I did Clipper programming in the early 90s. There was a function called sounds like.
Nice.
Not sure if such a thing would exist or is coming in Kusto one day. Yeah, and of course it was only English, so if you pronounce it like Nederlands, that would not work then. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Cool.
And then maybe more important, because we had a a thing, thanks to the team from Microsoft, Matt Zorich offered us 3 licenses for the book. So we were thinking what would be a good way to raffle them. And we thought, well, if we just attach it to the form on one side and then on the other side, we could raffle it then. So a bit of programming on my side or a bit of querying, I started playing with the data. And basically, at first, what I was thinking, I had the table, and I was thinking, let's just take one for now. And we had this number. So this number was good, but we needed to make sure that we could have 5 random items. So what I was thinking was to make a way to grab some of these items. So I had one second.
What?
So my 3-year-old son is standing here with a play cat. So sorry for the background noise. So
He wants a book.
yeah. So what we did was I projected a raffle pseudo, and from the raffle pseudo, I wanted to pick 5. So I thought, well, let's just use the take operator, because if we do take 5, then we should have 5 randomly selected items, but they are random for the order of the data. And since the order of the data isn't changing, I can do this 100 times, but it won't change basically the items. So I thought, well, we have the sample operator. And if we do the sample operator and say show 5, does it show 5, I guess? Let's see. Sample 5. It was reading the error. Basically, connect to string. Okay. Anyways, I tried and I couldn't get it to work. So what I came up with basically is to make a winner table. And in the winner table, I had one entry, and to that entry, I added an ID column, and then I used the rand 49. So let me just show you for a second what the rand 49 does. Because that basically gives a random value every time. So I can do this 100 times, and it will only use one random value. So I incorporated
with a seed of 49, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the winner table, every time I refresh it, it doesn't matter how often I do it, I am sure that I have the random number. So basically, I have the table, and I also removed the empty items because some people replied and they didn't want to raffle. So this way, I have a good way to show all empty values or all non-empty values. Then, because we need to have the compare 2 values, we have an integer over here. So basically, when I ingested the data, the ID became a string. I can show you because the get schema operator shows ID is a string. So we needed to convert that. And now we have all strings in the ID. And then what we'll do is we'll join the ID on the one side with the winner table, and then we should return the ID and the pseudo for the winning account. And because I didn't want to share everyone's email, I tried to do it like this, and now we can raffle 5 IDs, and then we can send the books to them. Unless they're on the call, and then we can see who won them. So first we have basically the pseudo says the first 2 letters are the first 2 items of the email. Then .sk is from the last bits from the domain, and then the .se is the TLD.
That sounds Swedish, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds Swedish. And then let's see if we can figure out if the person is maybe here.
Yeah. I suggest we just continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me write them down. So we have this one. And then we can do another one. So this is the po.ic.com. Then we can have a third one. It's jd.gm.com. And then we have the eh.gm.com. With that one we already had. And the last one is the ga.ou.com. So we have, these are the 5, and I will send the voucher codes later on.
So congratulations on whoever those cryptic names were. Yeah, thanks for providing your feedback, and have fun with the book.
Yeah. And then another important thing, I'm not sure if you want to do the next slide, or shall I, Alex?
I can do it and give my little rant on it.
So we had a lot of fighting because we did put in a lot of effort to do the KustoCon, and we love that people were interactive and were sharing their opinions and their knowledge, and it was a great day. So I really wanted to share, but Alex also has an opinion about it, and which I can also understand. So the floor is yours, Alex.
Yeah. So like in almost in every meeting, do we get your slides? Do we get your recording? So yeah, I'm happy for all those that were just waiting on the recording. Yeah, here they are. So after Johnny pushes some buttons, you'll have access to those recordings. Yeah, my personal issues with recordings is if you announce upfront that the recordings will be there, you're basically bringing down live audience. And after, yeah, as a matter of fact, I feel, as you could see, we all traveled to the Netherlands to be in one room. Did the whole recording. We really had a great live audience, and yeah, to me personally, that is also what makes a conference a little bit different, rather than just talking against a screen with a few participants. And of course, we appreciate all the people that watch the recording afterwards. Don't get me wrong there, but that's why I was a little bit hesitant in announcing upfront. But yeah, Johnny got a lot of emails. Our speakers got a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions in all types of channels. So I'm happy to let you know. And yes, the sessions were really good from our speakers. So have fun. Take a look at the YouTube channel of our KQLCafe. There you should see a playlist soon with all the individual sessions of our last KustoCon. So have fun with that. And yeah, to close it out, so for this year we are basically done. December, usually people have other things to do, or at least Johnny and I have, but let me quickly share. We have some cool stuff in the pipeline. Let me quickly go there and share our agenda. So coming up in January, let me see, where is it? Upcoming, yeah. So this is what we have today. In January, we have a friend from the United States, Ian Hanley. He's also quite busy with KQL and Azure and Sentinel. Then I'm also super pleased to announce Uri Barash from the Kusto team, so from Microsoft. He will talk about Microsoft Fabric, and if you happen to be at or virtually at Ignite or just follow, the press around newest developments, you probably have heard about Microsoft Fabric recently. So he's going to give us a primer on what it is and, of course, how it relates to KQL. And then to be confirmed, I was a little bit fast because I had to change the date. So also important in March, usually we run KQLCafe at the last Tuesday of the month, but because Johnny and I are most likely going to be in the United States then at a other conference. So we'll have our session in March 1 week earlier, and hopefully I get Sergio to commit that date as well. Also Sergio, if you are in LinkedIn, follow his posts. He recently shared a lot of KQL goodness as well. So bottom line, also what is super cool, if I think back when we started 2 years ago, looking back at all the guests that we have had so far, we had some people that have been there already with KQL, but we also see a lot of new people suddenly popping up and are willing to share their KQL knowledge and experience with the community. So we hope that in 2025, we can continue to do so. And with regard to the KustoCon, no concrete plans yet. We know it's going to be somewhere around November, most likely, but where and how and hybrid and online, that's yet to be defined. But I would say stay tuned, and thanks for joining us today. And for those that are regular followers, thanks for joining us all the time. And if you happen to watch this afterwards in a form of a recording, thanks for watching the recording. And meanwhile, maybe I should even say, because that's what I see all the time people doing in YouTube, please press the subscribe button. No, honestly, we love to have this small but dedicated community. So we're not per se after the numbers who follow us. So thanks again for joining. If you have any ideas or questions, please let us know. If you would like to speak yourself, I cannot stop repeating this. Every little contribution counts. If you want to talk about something you did at your work, or maybe you can encourage a colleague at work who is good at KQL and who is willing to share, please let us know. So with that, thanks for joining us today.
My 2 cents on that one, by the way, if you want to speak, but if it's your first time, or if you need any help, mentoring, environment, guidance in any way, or if you just need help anyways without being a presenter, find Alex, find me, and we'll set you up.
Yeah, definitely. Always happy to mentor as well. So with that, many thanks, and have a great rest of the day, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all for watching.